against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Yo, that was a live view of the Overton window completely being shattered because the leading presidential candidate for the Republican Party just said at the Libertarian Conference that he is going to free Ross Ulbricht. Not only that, he's going to protect the right of Bitcoiners in the USA to self-custody, right? So Bitcoin is on the ballot in 2024. Again, I got to say, we did not make this a partisan issue. This became a partisan issue because the whole industry was being attacked. Elizabeth Warren was on on an unholy crusade to go after the industry using false narratives. She, created the narrative using the Wall Street Journal that Hamas was using Bitcoin to launder money. Joe Biden proposed a 30% tax on Bitcoin miners just because they're Bitcoin miners, right? We had all the, the attacks from the New York Times basically trying to make the case that somehow Bitcoin miners were emitting emissions, right? This, Operation Choke Point 2.0, Caitlin Long's bank, Custodia Bank, denied the federal banking charter. It was literally an attack. And then what happened? We got fed up. The moment they put one of us in a box, the moment they put the Samurai Wallet guys and they arrested them, Bitcoin privacy developers, people that were writing code, they awoken the beast. They stirred up the hornet's nest and the hornet's nest fought back. Now, they tried to walk it back a little bit. That's why the Ethereum ETF got approved. But I think it's too little too late. I still don't believe them because they also voted on the central bank digital currency bill. And again, it was a long party line. So my question, very simple question, is like, why is this a partisan issue? Why is the central bank digital currency is a partisan issue? Why is Bitcoin a partisan issue? This is a non-partisan issue. They made it a partisan issue. And now all of a sudden, a huge portion of their demographic is like, you know what? I don't like you guys. I'm going to vote for the orange man because he likes the orange coin. Right. And other news also, it seems like another country is joining the hash wars. Right. Another country announced that they're mining Bitcoin. So, of course, we had the Kingdom of Bhutan that partnered with the public miner Bitdeer. They increased their hash rate significantly. We had El Salvador, an article from Reuters dropping, basically announcing that they mined 474 Bitcoin since they started mining. And of course, now the breaking news is that Kenya partnered with Marathon to, here's the key word, to monetize underused energy by mining. And that's the key, right? Is stranded energy, excess energy. That's where Bitcoin miners come in. Bitcoin is the first technology that gives stranded energy, excess energy value, right? It's able to monetize that. And I think you're going to start to see this all over the world. Now it's become a pattern. Now it's become a pattern. These public miners, they're just looking all over the world, looking for cheap electricity to turn it into sweet Satoshis. So it's a day loaded with news. And of course, we have a very special guest today. We have the CEO and founder of Bitcoin Well. We have the one, the only, Brian. How you doing, Adam?
What's up? Watch this. Yeah, streamers. Let's go. I'm good, man. How are you? Streamers for Bitcoins, man. Sweet Satoshis from stranded energy. You'll love to see it.
Absolutely, man. Dude, I gotta say, I just, Canada is freaking awesome, bros and gals who are watching. Like, I am, every time I went to Alberta for the Bitcoin rodeo, I went to Montreal now for the Canadian Bitcoin conference. I have a good time every time, other than the moment in immigration where I thought for half a second I was going to get arrested. Other than that, it was a positive experience. And I got to say, like, you guys knock the, I can't curse, but knock the S out of each other on the ice playing hockey. Like, all the niceness goes away. And then, like, the most gladiatorial sport, more than American football, like knives on their shoes with sticks, and they just, it's crazy, dude. But Canada's an awesome country.
I was stoked to, Nico and I got to watch a hockey game in a rowdy sports bar in Montreal. It was pretty awesome. It was epic. It was a good game. Had a lot of fun, and it was dynamite. It was good stuff.
It was a great time. It was a great time. I also want to bring up my legendary comes always optimistic. It's Monday, so the optimism levels. I mean, it's another week.
The optimism levels are low on Mondays. We could all acknowledge that. But no, man, life's great. I said every day, it's hard being negative when you're a Bitcoiner. But I do want to publicly say that the Stars are going to beat the Oilers tonight. So I'm very hyped that Adam's on the show. I've been saying this for a minute, that I'm having a great time being an NHL fan right now, because I've actually experienced it now. And yeah, the Stars are going to take this, Adam. I'm sorry, but we're going to take this.
Bro, I mean, this might just turn into the Oilers Stars podcast for the next week. We might just Nico off to the side until Florida gets the boot. But yeah, there's some stakes on the line here, man. Yeah. We've got it. You know, there's.
Well, actually, can I? I'm going to expose the stakes here. So if the Stars win this series, then the Bitcoin Well team will have to don a Stars flag at their headquarters. And if the Oilers win, then I'll be wearing an Oilers hat on the show for the following week. So them's are the stakes.
James and I were at the watch party a few days ago, and we passed a hat, and he was like, should I just buy Optia's hat right now? Just make sure we get ahead of it.
Bro, I just got to say, hockey's absolutely crazy. And also Panthers, the Panthers are in it, I think. So, you know, it's this weird, you know, the three cities, man.
All right. Cut his mic off.
It's pretty, and like, why is there a hockey team in Florida also? That's kind of strange. Anyways.
That's where everyone goes to retire, because there's good taxes.
Exactly. It's like, we have to have a hockey team here. Anyways, guys, it's going to be a hell of a show. Lots to unpack. We're going to get started. Welcome to Simply Bitcoin, the most watched daily Bitcoin live show on YouTube, Rumble, and X. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, smash the like button. Really helps with the algos and helps push the orange signal forward. Before we get the show started, I do want to give an extremely special shout out to our lead sponsor. And of course, I'm talking about the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. It's a publicly traded company coming out of Canada that is self-custody by default. Future-proof your money with Bitcoin Well. What is self-custody by default? What is it? Well, you can't buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well unless you're going to take self-custody. You literally have to put your self-custody Bitcoin address, and as soon as you buy Bitcoin and the funds clear, it goes directly to self-custody, which perfectly aligns with the Simply Bitcoin ethos of the separation of money and state. Imagine recommending a platform to your uncle and your aunt, and they completely get rugged because they don't have the incentive to take self-custody. That's not going to happen, but only on bitcoinwell.com. So check out there right now. Head over to Bitcoin Well and buy real Bitcoin. Enable your independence. It's the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin in Canada and the USA. It's a clear 1% spread, which is the industry standard. It's Bitcoin only, and of course, it's non-custodial, empowering sovereign ownership with free automatic self-custody. Also, check out their cash vouchers. Privacy preservation at its finest. Load up on Bitcoin by financing your Lite account with cash at one of our many Bitcoin ATMs. Buy up to $3K per day. Wink, wink. Only an email address is required. Wink, wink. Anyways, go to bitcoinwell.com/simply to get started today. All right, everybody, let's hit the numbers. Lots to talk about. Here we go.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. There's already 600 of you guys watching live, so you guys are enjoying the show. Smash the like button. Really helps with the algos at the time of recording. The Bitcoin price is 70,410 sats per dollar, 1,420. Apparently, this is called the Trump pump. This is called the Trump pump. Anyways, that's block height 845,392. Blocks to halving 204,608. Halving estimate March 22nd, 2028. Total Lightning Network capacity 4,723 Bitcoin. Capacity value 332 million US dollars. Realized monetary inflation 1.64%. The market capitalization of Bitcoin currently sitting pretty at 1.39 trillion US dollars. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 8.58%. In the grand scheme of things, we are just getting started. Anyways, the big news, the big kahuna for this weekend, really, I think the crowd went absolutely wild. Donald Trump, the Republican presidential candidate, who is currently, according to the betting odds, is currently slated to win the 2024 election. Anything could happen. We're still many, many months from the election. Nobody knows, but it seems like the orange man is going to win the election, which is good for Orange Coin. Anyways, he was dropping some really important news in regards to Bitcoin over the weekend, and also a topic that, you know, is very special to Bitcoiners, which is the idea of the Ross Ulbricht. You know, they literally put this guy in a box for life because he created a website. They also came up with this bogus, you know, completely fabricated idea that he hired a hitman. But they were trying to make an example out of him. What does that sound like? That reminds me of the Samurai devs. That reminds me of the Tornado Cash devs. Like, they just want to make examples of people to scare them into submission, but that never works. Like, how's the war on drugs going? You know, how'd the prohibition go? That didn't work out too well, did it? Anyways, so this is what Donald Trump had to say at the Libertarian convention or conference or whatever it's called. Let's check it out.
Crusade to crush crypto. We're going to stop it. I will ensure that the future of crypto and the future of Bitcoin will be made in the USA, not driven overseas. I will support the right to self-custody. To the nation's 50 million crypto holders, I say this with your vote. I will keep Elizabeth Warren and her goons away from your Bitcoin. And I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency.
I mean, he said Bitcoin and crypto, right? He said Bitcoin twice. He said protect the right to self-custody and no to CBDC. I mean, he definitely has the right person in his ear. I kind of want to walk through the steps that I really, believed happened, which is Biden's hostility led to Vivek making it a political talking point. Vivek told Trump admitted to this in a campaign speech, and now it's gone full circle with Trump being pro-Bitcoin. Also, shout out to David Bailey, CEO of Bitcoin Magazine. He's done an incredible job, and I'm sure that a lot of the correct talking points, were told to Trump's team. So shout out to that monumental effort. This is a huge deal, but I also got to say that this is a nonpartisan issue. The current administration made it one. They stirred up a hornet's nest. They pissed off a lot of people, but I got to say, I already played this video. The Overton window got fucking shattered. Like that, like kaboom. Anyways, so also he didn't just say this about, he wasn't just talking about Bitcoin. He also mentioned Ross Ulbricht. So I want to play you guys that clip as well.
And if you vote for me on day one, I will commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht to a sentence of time served.
So, I mean, like, Ross Ulbricht, protecting self-custody, anti-CBDC. I mean, bro, like, orange man, orange coin. Here's Max Keiser. With Trump in the game, Bitcoin's rebellious, do-it-yourself, mid-70s like cyberpunk era is truly done and dusted. Nation-state hedge funds and sovereign wealth funds game theory kicks in, price heading to $1 million. Remember, Bitcoin has no top, because fiat has no bottom. I also want to comment a little bit about this specifically. We also had Michael Saylor tweet out over the weekend that the current amount of Bitcoin held by the ETFs has reached 1 Nakamoto, which apparently is a new term, but that basically means 1 million Bitcoin. That's a lot of Bitcoin. But I just want to remind everyone, around 11 million Bitcoin is still held by individuals. So this is why Bitcoin's grassroots creation was so important from the ground up. Satoshi didn't just email Goldman Sachs and give them a special deal. It was individuals. It was people. There's people like, the guy that bought the 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin. It was stuff like that. It was people like Ross Ulbricht, right? That really got people started. Adam, you were part of that whole Bitcoin OG, man. You were from the era of 2013, Canada's largest Bitcoin ATM company. So you definitely played a role into all of this. It was all these Bitcoiners and entrepreneurs and believers and holders that make up the lion's share of the lion's share of individuals holding this Bitcoin. It's not the ETF. So I just want to emphasize that. But now we're going into the next stage. And what I got to say now, guys, is that for whatever reason, if you use a custodial platform and you get rug pulled, you have only yourself to blame. And for whatever reason, if you're not taking self-custody, you only have yourself to blame. And for whatever reason, you're selling your Bitcoin, you're selling it to Larry Fink, or you're selling it to a country. Like, it is confirmed. That's who you're selling your Bitcoin to these days. So if you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you have to explain to your grandchildren why you don't have Bitcoin, and they look at like, Grandpapa, why don't you have Bitcoin, Grandpapa? And then you're like, I don't know, because I didn't use a non-custodial Bitcoin platform like Bitcoin Well. I didn't stamp my seed into titanium. That's why. And they're like, you're an effing loser, Grandpapa. Anyways, if you don't want to put yourself in that situation, watch Simply Bitcoin, take self-custody, use platforms like Bitcoin Well, stamp your seed on Stamp Seed, take self-custody of your Bitcoin, take a little bit of personal responsibility. It's not much, guys. Anyways, moving on to the next tweet by David Bailey. Trump is going to pick up millions of new voters because of his Bitcoin and crypto views. Biden admin is freaking out and attempting to pivot. If they were sincere at all, they would commute Ross Ulbricht's sentence tomorrow. They won't, though. Tells you all you need to know. That's right. Mr. Biden, Mr. President Biden, you have the opportunity to make this a nonpartisan issue. All you got to do is commute Ross Ulbricht's sentence. Will you do it? Probably not. I mean, it says a lot, doesn't it? Anyways, Beauty On has a great point, and shout out to Opti for pointing this out to me. In 2022, there were 161 million people registered to vote in the United States. Trump is going to help the 50 million crypto holders by giving them the right to use non-custodial tools. Do the math. And last point, most important in my opinion, Ross Ulbricht himself, the message from prison. By the way, he is currently locked up in, I think it's called UDX Florence. It's a maximum security prison where they put terrorists. You know, the Boston bomber? That's where they have them, right? They put really bad people there. And the cell is this tiny cell, has this tiny little slit window that you can kind of see outside. And he's been there for 10 years. Yeah. You know, we call this the peaceful revolution. But you know, he is one of the martyrs. He's one of the people, one of the casualties of this movement. How does he deserve 2 life sentences? No. I mean, when you have politicians laundering money, when the fact that no banker went to jail for 2008, the fact that they invaded a country under false pretenses, right, completely destabilized it, created one of the most, horrific, atrocious terrorist organizations in the world because of the power vacuum that was left. I mean, and none of those guys faced any consequences, but a dude that created a website, we gotta throw away the key on that guy. And developers writing code, nah, you guys can't do this. Anyways, this is what Ross says, and I'll pass it on to Adam. Last night, Donald Trump pledged to commute my sentence on day 1. If reelected, thank you. After 11 years in prison, it is hard to express how I feel at this moment. It is thanks to your undying support that I may get a second chance. So, I mean, I understand that Orange Man is a very divisive figure. I understand that a lot of people don't like him. And it's maybe because he's orange. Maybe you guys are a little bit racist. Maybe you guys don't like orange things. Maybe. But anyways, I understand, and I understand his politics and his policies and all that. But you guys know we're single issue voters on Simply Bitcoin. We don't really care about any of that stuff. We care about the separation of money and state. And when a US president is literally telling me that he's going to protect the right to self-custody and he's going to free Ross Ulbricht, I mean, who do you think I'm going to vote for, bro? Right? That's all I got to say about it. I don't care about the other stuff. It's irrelevant to me, right? And if you want to take like this like stance, basically saying like, oh, I don't like, is Biden saying he's going to free Ross? Is Biden saying he's going to protect self-custody? Is Biden anti-CBDC? No, he's pro-CBDC. That's the only thing I'm looking at, because I fundamentally believe that Bitcoin is going to make politics irrelevant over the long term. But we got to get to that point first. And you know how we get to that point? You free people like Ross. You free people like Julian Assange. That's right, I said it. You have big portions of the population taking self-custody, right? That's how you get to that point. So I think we're going to get there. I think we're going to win. We still have a lot of work to do, but this is definitely a step in the right direction. Guys, there's 1,000 of you guys watching lives already. So if you guys are enjoying the show, smash the like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. I'm going to pass it on to Adam. Adam, this is big news. I mean, you're seeing something similar in Canada, right? I always butcher his name. Sorry, guys. I'm not Canadian. I could barely speak English. I'm a Spanish speaker. Pierre Poilievre. Huh?
Poilievre.
Oh, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, Adam's very humble and he doesn't like to say it, but he speaks French, bro. Okay, because in Montreal, he was taking that card out. You know, he was like, bah, 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 bah. I'm Mr. Adam O'Brien. Comment ça va? Oui, oui, oui. And I was like, oh shit, bro, he speaks French. Anyways, what's your thoughts on all this, bro? Now we're seeing a pattern in different nations. Politicians are coming out and they're supporting Bitcoin. But I gotta say, listen, because I know a lot of Bitcoiners are anti-politician, rightly so. I think it's a testament to the power of our movement. It's a testament to the power of our industry. They need our vote. The Beauty On's numbers don't lie. He's not saying this because he likes Bitcoin. He's saying this because he needs Bitcoin and Bitcoiners to win, to get in a position of power, which is a testament to how much this is just getting started. Like, holy crap, in 10 years, when Adam's president of Canada and BTC Sessions is the mayor of Alberta, bro, that's going to be popping, dude. I can't wait for that, Adam.
Dude, I would not last 3 minutes in an office here in this political state. But you're right, man. I mean, once again, Bitcoin putting governments and now politicians into competition with each other. It is just like working as intended. Look at what happens when you have a nonpartisan thing, when you have something that actually provides freedom to people, something that actually is capable of being self-custody, that the government knows they cannot rip from your claws unless they first convince you to give it to somebody else. The government knows that they are going to be in 100% competition with each other, and it takes one. It takes one person, one politician, one country, one jurisdiction to say, I support the right to self-custody. I support Bitcoin. I support, number go up by deflationary money, not by inflationary debasement of money. And I mean, to be honest, I didn't have Trump on my bingo card to be that one. I had it more being a developing country, but he won the election. Like, that was it. I don't even know why we're going to go to the polls. I don't even know why we're going to wait till November. It's done. It's over. Trump wins. Like, when you talk to people about freeing a man, a non-dangerous man, when you talk to people about giving them the ability to hold and control their wealth, you win. And frankly, like, I'm a Canadian. I have very few dogs in this fight, but I was getting concerned. Like, I was literally worried and actually thinking about what another Biden administration meant for Bitcoin well in the USA. As a self-custody platform, there's no way to hold Bitcoin on Bitcoin well. Like, we're not going to pivot from that. And it was scary. And hearing that was a huge breath of fresh air. Hearing that was an incredible relief to hear that there is a chance, at least, that the last few months were massive warning signs. You know, honestly, you think about how everything kind of works out and has worked for the last 10, 15 years. If Trump is still in office, I don't think this happens, you know? And like whether or not, depending on what side of the aisle you fall on, if the election was rigged last cycle or not, if it was, like, once again, the left shoot themselves in the foot. The left suffer from a Cobra effect of not seeing what the freedom fighters will do. And the decentralization of power that Bitcoin provides it's next level. And yeah, man, it is encouraging. It is enlightening. I feel a little bit like Opti here, you know, just like spitting good vibes, but I think it's good. I do think though, and people in the chat are correct, like be wary of politicians, because the second, like, you know, we're in a bull market, and I saw someone tweet, I think it might've been you boys, tweeted like, thank goodness Satoshi planned the halvings on election years or something like that. Because like, yeah, pretty lucky to have number go up happening during election cycles, because it's sexy for politicians to write about it. We watched Pierre Poilievre completely pivot away from Bitcoin when the price fell. Hopefully though, if we get a Canada and a US, like the elections are, you know, going to be in similar timeframes, and we get both kind of like right-wing leaders talking about Bitcoin, talking about self-custody, denouncing CBDCs, Overton window moving. And people that were once were like, CBDC, who cares, whatever, are going to be like, well, why doesn't half the country like this? How come this is a problem? How come politicians are speaking out against this? And that's a massive win. So a vote for freedom, a vote for, you know, Ross. I am, you know, it disgusts me that Ross is in prison. If you haven't read the book, it's called American Kingpin, I think. It's dynamite, tells the whole story really, really well. It's a tragedy. You know, it's not even an autobiography. It's just a tragedy. It's I thought it really an autobiography, I suppose, but it's it's fantastic. And free Ross, vote for freedom, Bitcoin and self-custody. Like Trump's just sounding like Simply Bitcoin podcast here.
I mean, it's. I just gotta say, you said one of my favorite words. I think I heard you say Overton window.
Baby.
No, that's good production.
Yeah, man, I can't believe a rock can cause that much fire just on impact. That's pretty sweet. But bro, it's shattered, man. Like I would say still CBDCs and the concept of CBDCs are kind of where Bitcoin was in like 2015, 2016. Like, you know, when I was sitting on an airplane in 2015, people were like, what do you do for work? I'm like, oh, I buy and sell Bitcoin. They're like, what's Bitcoin? And half of them are like, oh, that's a scam. And now we're seeing, it's like, you know, people hear about CBDCs. They don't even know what it stands for. They don't know what it means. They don't know the impact or the implications that it'll have on their lives and their grandchildren's lives. And it's encouraging to hear him call Elizabeth Warren a goon, and then you know, Bitcoin or CBDCs in the same breath. Like, you love to hear it, man. You love to hear it.
Absolutely, 100%. Good points. Now, Opti, up to you, bro. And remember, if you say Overton window, something happens.
I'm not gonna say it. That's your shtick. But yeah, you know, kind of echoing what everyone in the chat's saying, and Adam touched it as well. Like, of course, politicians will say anything to get elected, and you know, don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do. You know, the same memes. But guys, like, this is how it works. Like, of course, we will have to see some follow through, but the math is simple. They have to appease Bitcoiners, like the beauty on tweet. 161 million eligible voters in 2022, 50 million Bitcoin or / crypto holders. It's like, it's very simple math. And I remember saying this last year, and I keep blanking on what the actual topic was, but it came out that if you piss off Bitcoiners, you're basically alienating a huge voting block. And if you appease them, then of course, they're going to vote you in. And so as much as we say all the time that in the long run, Bitcoin will obsolete politics and then they're irrelevant to what we're doing here. In the short term, it's kind of something that we've been talking about here on the show for a long time. Like, it's very good to see politicians starting to wake up to the idea that they can't piss off Bitcoin / crypto voters, or, you know, the very huge population of us that are holding Bitcoin understand that you can't just piss us off and try to trample on our liberties and expect to get reelected. Like, this is how elections work. And of course, you know, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of what I fully think about voting in the first place. You guys know me. You vote with your money and your pocket, or your feet and your money. This is very simple here. But again, kudos to Trump for even going to the Libertarian Conference, like going into the Lion's Den and realizing that there is a huge overlap between libertarians and conservatives. And like, he's doing a good job as far as I'm concerned of showing and exposing that, hey, we're better off working together than fighting each other. And it's really putting the ball in the Biden administration's court now and seeing how he's going to react to this. Because again, the math is simple. 161 million eligible voters in 2022, 50 million Bitcoin holders. And if you piss off Bitcoiners, you're not going to get reelected. And it's very simple. Nico's the one issue voter. I'm like more of a, hey, I vote with my pocketbook. But we are all aligned on the same thing. Having the government fight you is not a good thing for Bitcoiners, unless you're the accelerationist camp out there. They're like, let's just get this fight over with and just prove once and for all that they can't stop Bitcoin. But I do want to say shout out to the script writer out there that's writing Trump's script, because they're doing a great job. And on that point, I will have to give David Bailey.
That's Nick.
And, yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, and on that point, I will have to give David Bailey and the Bitcoin Mag team a hat nod, because, you know, influencing politicians is obviously a good thing. And of course, we got to see their follow through and all that good stuff. But hey, I love the scriptwriter. That guy should get a raise. Like, you know, again, of course, doubling down, like Bitcoin does supersede politics in the long term, but in the short term, it's good to get them on our side. And on that note, you know, hashtag free Ross.
100%. Go ahead, Adam.
What is mainstream media saying about this? Do you, like, is this
Nothing.
like, obviously,
Nothing.
We're in a big bubble, right? Like, we see it. It's got like millions of views on X and YouTube and stuff. Is there anything coming out?
If you search Trump on YouTube, libertarian, it will not show up on the search results.
Dang, dude, that's so crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts, dude. It's absolutely crazy. By the way, guys,
protocols, not platforms, man.
yeah, man, that's why I'm so bullish on Nostr, dude. Like, the more they crack down, just it incentivizes people to to go to alternative protocols, right, rather than platforms, because platforms have the centralization. Anyways, guys, we had 376 viewers on YouTube alone. We will almost break 400, which would be great. If you guys are enjoying the show, smash the like button. Really helps with the algos. Before we move on to the next block, I do want to give an extremely special shout out to our sponsor. Of course, I'm talking about the Pleb Party in Nashville. Adam, you're going to be in Nashville. You want to come to the Pleb Party?
I'll be there, bro. Let's hit it.
Boom! All right, guys. So what is the Pleb Party? It's a 12-hour open bar from noon to midnight in Nashville, the day before the biggest Bitcoin conference on planet Earth, July 25th. So if you want to be if you want to be at the place to be, and you're not going to be able to get tickets at the door, you definitely want to go to the Pleb Party. The one in Miami was absolutely bonkers. Michael Saylor ended up making an appearance. Confirmed attendees include Larry Lepard, Preston Pish, the entire Simply Bitcoin crew, James Labish, Robert Breedlove, Mark Moss, Pubby, Tatum Turnup, and now Adam O'Brien. It's going to be hosted at an amazing venue, a rustic automobile factory. Get this, from 1910. So before the Federal Reserve was established. So it's probably an actual real building. Has brick walls and tons of proof of work atmosphere. Over 1,000 Bitcoin plebs are expected to attend. You definitely don't want to miss the Pleb Party. It's one of the best parties in Bitcoin. So scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. All right, everybody, let's hit the news. Lots to talk about.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more. Grandpapa, why don't we have any Bitcoin? Well, it's because we didn't get a Passport hardware wallet and took self-custody of a Bitcoin. Guys, get the Passport. You can pair it up with the Envoy app. It makes spending or using cold storage Bitcoin incredibly easy. You can scan the QR code, or you could check the link in the video description. It will take you directly to the Passport by Foundation Devices website, where you can get yourself a hardware wallet. It's probably a good idea, or your grandchildren will hate you. I'm just kidding. Kinda. Maybe not kidding. Kinda kidding. I don't know. Kinda kidding. Anyways.
Dude, your grandkids will for sure hate you if you don't have Bitcoin cold storage.
Where's the hook?
Verifiable.
Where's the hook? Nika's dad jokes are getting worse. Get to the news.
All right, everybody. The Opti's got to do the jokes from now on. All right. So this is a pattern, and patterns are very important because I think news in itself, well, tons of people are scanning the QR code. So love you guys. Anyways, is pattern. And patterns are important because if you just see news in itself, if you only have one single data point, it's like it doesn't mean anything, right? But you're starting to see something. You're starting to see actual governments, states with excess energy, utilizing that excess energy to turn it into Bitcoin. One of the narratives that you see from jurisdictions that are hostile to Bitcoin, like the one, I hate talking shit about my country, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's really America is my country, but the country of my ancestors, Venezuelan government says we're going to ban Bitcoin. It's destroying the grid and all that stuff. No. Listen, you can't just set up a Bitcoin mine in the middle of Manhattan. Doesn't work. It's not going to be economical. You need to move Bitcoin miners to where the electricity is cheap. You know where the electricity is cheap? Where it's way too far from anything to be used. It's excess stranded energy. That's the whole point. Bitcoin miners kind of go in there and they use it up. It gives that energy value. That energy would already go to waste. And you can actually even make an argument that it stabilizes grids, right? Because grid operators kind of have to play this little bit of a guessing game and think, okay, you know, this is going to be the demand depending on the time of the day. Usually, you know, in the middle of the day, the demand's a little bit lower. Usually at night, it's a little bit higher. If it's in the summer, it's a little bit higher, right? You know, if it's in the winter and you got to power heaters, but because of Bitcoin miners, it kind of provides this stability because there's always kind of like this buyer of last resort, right? So it provides grid with stability. You could also make the case that it makes quote unquote sustainable energies possible, economically possible without government subsidies. You could also make that argument. I would say Bitcoin mining is very good for energy, and it's very good for the energy markets and renewable energy. I hate that word, but I'm gonna say it. Renewable energy, development. So here's the first data point. I love the Forbes article. Holy cow, the QR codes are going crazy. Seeing this, Opti? So the Forbes article was the Kingdom of Bhutan has been secretly mining Bitcoin, right? So, but this is the official press release that we've never read for you guys, so I want to read it. It says Bitdeer's Bitcoin mining triples in September, driven by new Bhutan data center. Bitdeer Technologies Group, a Singapore-based company, has reported a significant tripling in Bitcoin mining for the month of September 2023. The company's Gitu mining data center in Bhutan was instrumental in this surge, accounting for 45% of the increase. So they literally just tripled, I believe, the amount of capacity in Bhutan. I think they started with it was like $100 million investment. Then they ended up with I think it was like 600. It's something crazy. Anyways, Kingdom of Bhutan, one data point. Second data point, El Salvador. Of course, we love Bitcoin country. Here's a Reuters article. El Salvador mined nearly 474 Bitcoin, adding to state crypto holding in last 3 years. That's data point number 2. Now we have 3 data points, 3 separate countries in 3 separate continents South America. I mean, Central America. So I guess that's part of North America, maybe. So yeah, so North America, Africa, and Asia, right? So interesting. Three separate continents where governments are doing the same thing. I think that trend's going to probably continue. And why is that happening? Because of Bitcoin's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful incentives. Here are the incentives at play. The Bitcoin hash rate just going completely parabolic. I'll add all the other shit coins on here just to kind of give you guys this comparison, which is absolutely laughable. You can't even see. You see these little lines down here that are like going sideways? That's like the hash rate of all the other ones. You see this massive drop in between 2021 and 2022. That was the CCP mining Bitcoin miners, right? It's like 60% of the hash rate was located.
Banning Bitcoin miners.
What did I say?
Mining Bitcoin.
Oh,
miners.
I apologize. Thank you, Opti. This is the CCP banning Bitcoin miners. The hash rate dropped by 50%. It took the price down with it. I believe they attacked the price. But that's maybe my conspiracy theory. I still think it's true though. And the hash rate dropped like 50%. And within 9 months, not only did the price recover, but also the hash rate covered in a completely decentralized fashion without any central authority telling those miners to plug themselves back in. It was just Bitcoin's incentives. So you want to know why Bhutan is mining Bitcoin? It's not because, they like Bitcoin. You want to know why Orange Man is asking for Bitcoiners' votes? It's not because I don't think he likes Bitcoin. I don't even think he fully understands what Bitcoin is. It's because of incentives and the game theory. You want to know why El Salvador is mining Bitcoin? Because of incentives. And you want to know why Kenya just signed up to this, which is today's news. And shout out to Nick. I see you, Nick, the legendary Zoomer over at Bitcoin Mag. This is why Bitcoin's incentives. Anyways, the headline for our audio listeners is Kenya partners with Marathon to monetize underused energy by mining. It goes on to say, Kenya has signed a deal with Bitcoin miner Marathon Digital Holdings to monetize the country's underutilized energy resources. This partnership, announced by Marathon's CEO Fred Thiel on X, marks a significant step towards leveraging Kenya's surplus energy for Bitcoin mining and technological development. Here's the memorandum of understanding between the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum of the Republic of Kenya and Marathon Digital Holdings Incorporated. Now you have two public companies that are partnering with governments to mine Bitcoin. And you know what happens when they mine Bitcoin? They make the Bitcoin network technically more secure. The higher the hash rate, the harder it becomes to computationally attack, the higher the value proposition. Everyone wins. It's crazy what happens in an aligned incentive structure model, right? It's so nuts. Anyways, it's probably a good idea to get some just in case it catches on. Anyways, Kenya has a special spot in the history of digital currencies, and it is the home of M-Pesa, which in 2007 was one of the first ways for people in Kenya and now across Africa to transmit value digitally by using mobile phones. Today, tens of millions of people across Africa use M-Pesa for branchless money transfers. Marathon is proud to play a part in the next phase. Here's here are the signatures between the prime candidate secretary and cabinet secretary for foreign affairs. And here's, Fred Thiel. It goes on to say, earlier this month, Kenya Marathon Digital Holdings initiated their partnership with President William Ruto, confirming that Marathon is in consultations with Kenya's National Treasury and Ministry of Energy regarding the mining operations. This collaboration aims to harness Kenya's abundant, underutilized energy and monetize it via mining. Kenya's geothermal energy capacity is substantial, with the country being one of the leading producers of geothermal power in Africa. Despite this, a significant portion of this energy remains untapped. Key word here, right? Untapped, excess energy. Geothermal also is what miners in Iceland are using, what miners in El Salvador are using as well. By partnering with Marathon Digital Holdings, Kenya seeks to turn this surplus into a valuable resource, generating additional revenue and promoting energy efficiency. The deal involves not only the use of untapped energy for mining, but also the joint development of technology projects that could benefit the country's infrastructure and technological landscape. President Ruto emphasized the potential benefits of their partnership earlier this May, stating that Kenya means business by effectively utilizing excess energy. Keyword, excess energy. Kenya can boost its economy, create jobs, and position itself as a leader in sustainable energy and technology. Wow. it's almost as if Bitcoin is helping this, country in Africa. But I thought that according to the New York Times, this is impossible. It just boils the oceans and it's bad for everything. It just destroys the planet. It's almost as if it's doing the exact opposite. Quote, Marathon Digital has been ushered to consult with the National Treasury in Kenya on our cryptocurrency mining regime and to the Ministry of Energy to discuss its energy needs in connection with cryptocurrency mining here in Kenya. Also, when they say cryptocurrency mining, like the vast majority now that Ethereum migrated to proof of stake, it's Bitcoin. Proof of work mining is like 98 or 99% Bitcoin at this point. So when they say that, it really mean Bitcoin. Anyways, so big news. And again, the signal out of all this, guys, like if you just saw this news coming out of Kenya, I would say maybe it's noise. But the signal here is that now you have 3 separate data points and they all indicate a pattern. You're seeing a pattern now, which is nation states are actively mining Bitcoin. That's a big effing deal, in my opinion. And I think that's a trend that's not going to stop. And it's not going to stop because Bitcoin's incentives are superior to anything else. And that's exactly why Augustin Carson's button is about to explode, because he just can't handle it anymore. It's going to probably do something like this. Anyways, I'm going to pass it on to Opti, who's shaking his head. Opti, what's good, bro?
I'm shaking my head at just the bad
by
dad
the way,
jokes.
YouTube. That was a metaphor.
Metaphorically
that was
speaking.
a joke. Metaphorically speaking. I'm gonna pull up the picture while Opti does his bit.
Okay. All right. Well, you know me, guys. I am a pattern respecter, and the facts are the facts. Bitcoin mining is actually good for energy grids and the future of the planet, like full stop. And we're starting to see this play out, and you just love to see that the game theory is going exactly as it's been foreseen. And I'm glad that more countries and more companies are finally putting this into action, so it's not just a few sparse examples of this happening. And now it's starting to become, it was a spark, and now it's going to soon become a wildfire, and you just love to see it. Now everyone has to catch up, because I've been saying for a while now that once every energy provider realizes this exact playbook, it's over for the petrodollar. Obviously, that's a long time away. But once Bitcoin is completely pegged into energy, 100%. Once we get the petro sat is when things are really, really unstoppable. And I think we're going to be seeing this happen very quickly in the next 5 to 10 years. And you just love to see it. Love to see that Kenya is way ahead of the curve. It's very interesting how third world countries seem to pick up on Bitcoin and the improvements and the incentives of Bitcoin than the big first world companies. I wonder why, or first world countries. I wonder why that is. And then also, look, very interesting. Like I said, the game theory is playing out exactly as foreseen. And I never got into the Jason Lowery soft war thesis, but I think this soft war thesis is playing out in real time. And now the first world countries need to catch up, or else they're going to get left behind. And man, just love to see it. Just love to see more energy companies start to tap into the Bitcoin mining ecosystem. And I think this is going to catch on very quickly. It's because we all have the same problem, guys. We need something to store our value in. You can't store in dollars. No one wants U.S. government debt. So they're all looking for a solution. And of course, it's simply Bitcoin. But hey, what do I know? I'm a biased Bitcoiner.
You sound like an extremist.
Quit talking hate speech, Opti.
Yeah, I'm an extremist.
Adam O'Brien, what are your thoughts on this, brother?
Yo, man, Bitcoin is a battery for human beings. We work so hard all day long. We have to store that hard work and that energy somewhere. And thank goodness we have this very simple yet incredibly complex protocol in Bitcoin. I've been saying this for like probably 2, maybe 3 years now, where Bitcoin miners of the future are just energy companies. And energy companies right now have this decision to make. Are they going to be Netflix, or are they going to be Blockbuster? And there's going to be a few that are Blockbuster, and that's fine. They don't deserve to continue on. But the few that become Netflix, the few that actually survive this incredible, this is the biggest transition of the energy industry since energy was just invented. Like, there's been no better transition of energy since, and there never will be. This is number one. And I think it's going to be very interesting to watch these energy companies rush and scramble and compete, not to build infrastructure, not to, dig holes everywhere and try to run pipelines and get a bunch of government approvals and chat, here in Canada. I'm sure it's the same in the US. You got to consult 100 different groups of people. You have to do all the, all the bureaucratic, not done. All that is over. You have to rush to become a Bitcoin miner. And that is so bullish on the future of the world, on the future of the industry, but on the future of energy, because finally we're going to have some competition for energy. There's no competition for energy. We've done such an incredible job of pigeonholing energy into a monopoly across the world, because there's it's just infrastructure reliant. Energy and moving energy around is so heavily reliant on infrastructure. Bitcoin blows that up. It allows you to send energy across the world, which is shocking. Here in Alberta, I drive by every single day flares. I drive because the byproduct of pulling oil is natural gas. Natural gas is difficult to move because it's so abundant and so cheap. We literally here in Alberta and Opti, I guarantee it in Texas, light it on fire. We literally light the byproduct of pulling oil out of the earth on fire, throw it up into the sky. And that right now, that is so detrimental because it can be Bitcoin. Every time I pass by a flare stack, I'm like, yo, that guy's lighting Bitcoin on fire, because natural gas now turns into Bitcoin. And it is so bullish. And more and more people are realizing this. There's incredible companies. Upstream is like a good Alberta corp. They've been putting C-cans of generators and miners onto flare stacks for, I think, since 2018 or 2019, maybe even earlier. It's absolutely the future of the energy industry. Petrodollar, see you later. Petrosat, what's good? And yeah, super stoked on that. I think it's great. And also, if you see flare stacks, you should I encourage everyone to just drive up there. There's a sticker on the flare stack that says owned and operated by, whatever the company is. Call that company and just tell them, hey, can I buy your flare gas? And they will give it to you for free or cheap, very, very, very low. And mine some Bitcoin, get a little KYC free stack. It just throw a couple gen sets and a couple miners on top of the natural gas, and voila. I think it's so good. We've got an opportunity here, and it's going to be massive.
Absolutely. And it's going to fundamentally change the world. And, these countries like the Kingdom of Bhutan, El Salvador, Kenya, these aren't, these aren't very high income countries. These aren't very wealthy countries. But they all have something in common. They have a tremendous amount of excess energy. In the case of Bhutan, it's hydro. In the case of El Salvador and Kenya, it's geothermal, right? And the thing about energy is you can't you can't really store it effectively, right? The example I always give is you leave your iPhone unplugged, right? Even if it's at 100%, you wake up the next day, it's 99%. Batteries aren't good. They lose a little bit of charge over time. And if you transport electricity over long distances, is the same thing. You lose a bit of efficiency. So you kind of have to use it on the spot. So you can't really transport this thing or store electricity effectively. So you kind of have to use it when you create it, or when I don't know if that's the correct term, right? And that's where Bitcoin miners come, because they can go anywhere, right? You can literally have a Bitcoin mine in the middle of the Serengeti and set up the Starlink, and you're good to go.
I saw this in real time. I traveled to Panajachel with Julian, and we went to, this is in a Guatemala city, tiny little city. They call it now Bitcoin Lake. And there's the local Bitcoin guy there is called Eleazar. And he's got this Bitcoin miner tucked away in the back of some kind of automobile repair yard. And he's like, come on, I'll show you Kaboom. And I was like, what do you mean Kaboom? He's like, just watch, you'll see. So Eleazar goes around to the restaurants, gathers their used cooking oil, comes back to Kaboom, dumps the used cooking oil into a diesel generator, and then rips this old gen set, and it makes the most obnoxious kaboom noise, and the miner fires up. And I think the miner, he's got two miners there, and they have enough hash rate to generate half of an average Guatemalan salary just from walking around and collecting used cooking oil and throwing it into the generator. It is so incredible. And by the way, all that cooking oil used to go into the lake, and it made the lake inhabitable. The restaurants used to just dump the cooking oil out their back door. Used to just travel down the streets and make the lake very bad. And so I think the more that you investigate, when you hear about something, a concept, and then you investigate, and it's one of two things. It's either way better or it's way worse. And most things that the government sells us, it ends up being way worse. But with Bitcoin, the more and more that you investigate and the more that you run the example out to the extreme, it just gets way better. It always gets way better. And that's because of what you're saying. The incentives are so aligned, the opportunity to not only like profit, but just benefit. And I think benefit is above profit because there's no losers. Everyone benefits. And when Eleazar does the hard work of, collecting cooking oil and then dumping it into the generator and then mining the Bitcoin, the entire community is benefiting from having less rotten oil in the streets. And Eleazar is benefiting from having the Bitcoin come in to his wallet. And it's like, wow, like how good is that compared to everybody pays a carbon tax, everybody pays more for things, and they all pay some like fee to the government as if the government has some control over climate. Like it's just the most aligned way to decentralize the good things. And lo and behold, Bitcoin once again giving us that incentive system. So yeah, it's super cool, man. I'm super bullish on, that's so good. And then also, and this is kind of where I'll maybe jump off the I'm very bullish on the future of mining. But I think in retail, like we've got such an opportunity. It is so offensive to me that we burn natural gas and do not receive Bitcoin because of how easy it is to receive Bitcoin as that middleman. The byproduct of burning gas is heat. But now the byproduct of burning gas is Bitcoin, and the byproduct of mining Bitcoin is heat. So when you put Bitcoin in the middle, everything gets cheaper and everything gets better on a sound money standard. So it's just, you love to see it. You love to see it.
It almost sounds like we're winning. It almost sounds like Bitcoin makes the world a better place.
Wait, it almost sounds like Bitcoin fixes this.
Whoa! Haven't heard that hashtag in a while.
Very extremist show. Anyways, guys, while Adam was talking, we broke 400 live viewers on YouTube, 1,500 live viewers in total. About 30 of you guys watching us on Rumble. So if you guys are enjoying the show, smash the like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided value. But guys, we still have the culture segment, so strap in. Anyways, before we get to it, I do give a very special shout out to our sponsor, the Orange Pull app. Stack friends who stack sats. Find local Bitcoiners and events and merchants near you. Join the 10,485 Bitcoiners that are currently on the app. They are the Bitcoin social layer. It's probably a good idea to build up that Bitcoin Rolodex because I truly believe Bitcoiners are going to be some of the most influential, powerful people in the next 5 to 10 years. There's a very clever geographical feature where you literally pull up the app and it'll show you the Bitcoiners that are near you. So if you're traveling, if you're in a new city, the Orange Pull app is a great resource. Also, it's the best way to DM me directly. I don't really check Twitter DMs that often, but if you want to reach me directly, you want to have a conversation, reach out to me on the Orange Pull app, send me a DM, and I'll try to get back to you in a short amount of time. So scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. Download the Orange Pull app today. Let's check out the culture segment.
The Daily Culture.
Adam O'Brien, Jesus is a Bitcoiner.
Whoa.
What's up with that,
that's
dude?
A good video, man. You guys killed that. That was sweet. Yeah, man, it's like this thesis I've been running down for probably close to a year now on like the fact that so many biblical principles align with the ethos and principle of Bitcoin just kind of had me running down the rabbit hole. And it's been it's been a cool journey. I've gotten to give a couple of presentation. I called it Jesus is a Bitcoiner because it's a little bit like audacious and it gets people curious, and it's been a cool it's been a cool thing.
So like what, and I remember I didn't catch the entire thing. I caught 85% of it. I missed like the first 15%, which maybe was the most important part because I was like on the news desk. Me and Opti were running around like crazy. What are the kind of the similarities? Like why, first of all, what inspired you to write that or to make this presentation? Because I know that you've been talking to me about this for a while. You've been wanting to do this was a keynote, I guess you'd call it, or this presentation, this case. Why is that? Like, what inspired you to do this? What are the similarities, and why is Jesus a Bitcoiner?
Yeah, man. Okay, it came down to time preference. So this whole kind of thing started with the Freedom Festival in Costa Rica. I was they asked me to give I was going to speak there, and originally it was going to be on like how to have time preference while orange pilling your friends and family, because I believe that orange pilling your friends and family is one of the most important things you can do, one of the most important things you can do for them. But the way that you do it needs to be like, I'm not a big believer in like toxicity, like, oh, you're an idiot, mom, you're never going to get it, so screw you. That just doesn't work. Like that's not the way to do it. And so I was writing this presentation wondering and kind of like doing some reflection on how I've orange pilled people in the past. And it came down to time preference. It came down to lowering your time preference. And so I started thinking about my like time preference, and I was looking at my kids. I've got 4 kids, kind of like all under the age of 10. And I was like, okay, well, I'm instilling some good values in them for their kind of orange pill journey. And they're going to have like 100 years. And that's kind of it. And I was like, I'm with modern medicine and like a stack of Bitcoin, I'll be like another 100 years or so. So let's call it a century. And so for me, I was like, okay, well, I've got 100 years left to be a Bitcoiner. That's like pretty good, but 100 years is not. It's not eternity. It's not 200 years. It's not 1,000 years. And I was kind of thinking like, well, how do you progress past that? So my lower time preference kind of drove me into past, like after death, what happens, and then dive down into like the creator versus just the nothing. And obviously, like, dude, the more that you look at the earth and you have enough coincidences, it's tough. It's really tough to believe that there's nothing, in my opinion. It's really difficult to look at the earth, the beauty, the perfection, the science. Like, you kind of have to believe that the law of conservation of mass just didn't apply for one single time, or you have to believe in a creator. And so it's like, okay, well, let's run down the creator path. What is it? And it came down to Jesus talking about humility and how the ethos of humility lines up with that Jesus preached about, lined up so well with the ethos of Bitcoiners. And like, stay humble, stack sats is an obvious one, but like the Bible talks about humility so much, like over 80 times in the Bible do we talk about humility. So there's that piece, but then also there's like God literally speaking sound money into existence when they're talking about value and how people should be trading. There's Jesus, preaching about fair money and value for value economics. And the more that I researched, this concept, the more that it kind of felt like it was driving down that path. Gave the first presentation in Costa Rica in January. And then I've just been giving it a couple times since. Gave it in Montreal recently. Talking right now to maybe give it in Nashville. And it's cool, man. It's been an interesting thesis and an interesting concept, and one that I recommend. And like the thesis here is like, don't take my word for it. Like, go and do your own research and investigate. But part of your Bitcoin journey, like Jesus is probably, at the end of your Bitcoin journey. And that's kind of my call to action, is like, prove me wrong and go investigate and let's talk about it. Because if I'm wrong, like, please tell me, right? I desperately want to be right about the eternity of my soul. But if I'm right, then like, please listen and let's run down the path together.
Yeah, and it's really fascinating and of course, me and Opti kind of we keep it to ourselves, but you guys see the crucifixes every once in a while that
We're Latino after all. We're Latino after all.
We'll pull it out every once in a while. So if you guys pay close enough detail, but a couple things comes to mind. So one of the things that I love is Pascal's wager. So Pascal's wager is this idea that you believe in God, God exists, eternal happiness. You believe in God, God does not exist, nothing happens. You don't believe in God, God exists, eternal damnation. You don't believe in God, God does not exist, nothing happens. What's the best wager there, right? So that's why I love the concept.
Risk.
Right, the Pascal's wager is a really interesting concept. And then another concept, which I don't think I've ever talked about this publicly, but I almost died. I was 23 or 24 years old. I think that if you can't, it's not something that you can see, but it's something that you can definitely feel. And it's there, and good and evil are 100% real. You can feel it. You can't see it, but you can feel it. It's like, it's in your heart. It tells you. And what I will tell you, and I think it was actually Dennis Prager that said this, one of the best ways to kind of see is what happens to people when they don't believe in God. Right, happens to people when because what tends to happen if you don't believe in God is you think you are God, right? And then that kind of leads down a very slippery slope. So it's a very kind of interesting type of topic, and it's a very it's interesting. It's interesting, and one of the things that I've noticed in Bitcoin as well, and I've seen this with multiple people. I'm not going to name them publicly, of course, but I've seen them become. Maybe not in the, of course, I'm Hispanic and so is Opti, right? So we're Catholic as AF, but from a lot of people is that Bitcoin has made them more spiritual in a way, more connected to the universe, which makes perfect sense if you think about it, because Bitcoin is anchored to reality via proof of work, right? Versus fiat, it's completely disconnected. It's completely man-made. So it's almost as if, maybe this is a stretch. I wish Luke Broyles was with us, because this would be a great conversation between the four of us. But it's almost as if fiat corrupts the soul, and Bitcoin, I don't want to say saves it, right? But Bitcoin protects it in a way, insulates it. Maybe that's a stretch.
Path, I think, because again, the point of Bitcoin is just lower your time. Like, if you boil down Bitcoin to one sentence, it's just think about the future and work as hard as possible today to preserve that future. And I think when we do the same thing with our lives, that's a pretty good thing. And I'm seeing lots of people in the chat are like, don't trust, verify. Yeah, totally agree. But you got to look at both sides there. And I think that when you don't trust, but you verify, it leads Bitcoin has a certain amount of faith already in it, and already there's an ounce of spirituality that exists there because it's rooting us to our root energy. Bitcoin is like the grounding wire that just brings us right back down to earth, in the most efficient way possible. And I think that when we've got value disconnected from reality, not grounded, we're it's floating. Do you know how dangerous that is? To have an ungrounded hot wire is so dangerous. And I think Bitcoin grounds it. And when you become grounded, you just become grounded. And I'm also it could be recency bias and all the rest of it, but it feels like I've had more people coming up to me after I give the presentation, more and more people every single time being like, one of two things. No one has ever come up and challenged me. And I kind of wish they would, you guys know, I've been in Bitcoin for 10, 11 years, love to be challenged. And I love to have good discussion. It's how we either cement or change beliefs. It's very important that we politely and confidently discuss facts with each other. But so many people coming up being like, yes, I've been considering this and thinking about this, and I haven't found a way to articulate it. So thank you for helping me with that. Or been like, I've never considered this, but what you're saying makes a lot of sense, and I'm excited to investigate it in the future. And that's because of what you said. It's because Bitcoiners are becoming more spiritual. Our time preference collectively as Bitcoiners is just lowering and lowering and lowering. And we're starting to think about the future. I talk about my granddaughter all the time. My granddaughter is like my number one thing that I talk about. And I've got a bunch of young kids. I've got no granddaughters anywhere near the horizon, but I'm thinking about her. And I think collectively Bitcoiners are in a similar boat. And it's interesting to see us, again, could be recency bias, but it's interesting to see us kind of discussing this collectively.
100%. It's a very interesting phenomenon. I don't hear enough people talking about it. And but Adam, I do want to pivot.
Wait. I want to say one thing before we pivot.
Hit it, Opti.
It's no secret that the only time that Jesus publicly freaked out was at the money changers. So I think Adam has a low-hanging fruit example there that of course he would have been a Bitcoiner. He literally freaked out at the money changers in the temple. And it sounds like a Bitcoiner to me. I don't know. I mean, what do I know?
Amen. Amen to that.
Man. He and it's crazy reading the Bible from the perspective of a Bitcoiner is wild, because you get to simultaneously be hardened in your Bitcoin belief while also be pushed in your humanity belief, and it's dynamite. So definitely encourage it. And again, like, prove me wrong or let me prove you wrong, and then let's like run together down a path towards sovereignty.
Amen to that. Amen to that. All right, Adam, let's talk about Bitcoin. Well, bro, self-custody by default. You guys have released a new product since you've been on the show, the cash vouchers. And of course, I don't know if I could say this. I'm going to say it anyways.
Do it, bro.
Something about lightning. So I don't know if I'm sorry, James, a Canadian Opti. Yeah, so let's start with self-custody by default, because I really believe, first of all, guys, and I'm not just saying this because, they're our lead sponsor. Self-custody is a revolution, right? And from my experience, what I've noticed is if you create an incentive structure, that's a key word, right? Where people are not incentivized to take a little bit of personal responsibility and learn how to take self-custody. The products on the market right now are so easy there's literally no excuse. Literally, one of my best friends, fucking BTC Sessions, bro, he has every tutorial known to man that will teach you how to use any type of hardware wallet. And there's no excuse. Like, look, if you can take care of the kid, if you can make yourself a sandwich, you could take self-custody. Like, there's no reason. But the thing is, humans are creatures of incentives. And if you create an incentive structure where the convenience is there for you to just leave it on the exchange, you're going to have to explain to your grandchildren why you lost your generational wealth, potentially.
Grandpapa.
Grandpapa, why did you lose the Bitcoin? So, you took I would say it's a risk, and you took this bold step. I'm going to stick with that. This bold step to make Bitcoin a self-custody by default platform. So could you talk a little bit about what your motivations were behind that decision?
Yeah, man, it's a bit what you're describing. Like, our mission is to enable independence, and that has been something that we've been like unwavering in. We march down every decision that we make is, does this enable more or less independence? Sometimes to the short-term detriment of like the company. But I fully believe that a company that is steadfast in enabling independence is going to win. And so, enable independence is pretty broad. It's like, okay, well, how can you do that? How could you enable independence? And we've chosen to do that through the convenient control of Bitcoin, not by us, but by our customers. And one thing that we like to say is we give people the convenience of modern banking, but with the benefits of Bitcoin. And the benefits of Bitcoin, it's self-custody. Like, the benefits of Bitcoin is not the deflationary. We could have made another deflationary asset. The government could have made a deflationary asset. Deflationary asset is not the revolution here in Bitcoin. That's not what Satoshi's big breakthrough was. The big breakthrough came from, proof of work, which enabled decentralized deflationary assets, but self-custody. And the way that you could spend money and not double spend the same money was the breakthrough. There's been tons of like eCash and delivered tokens before, but the real breakthrough was the inability to double spend Bitcoin. And the benefit to that, backing up one level again, is self-custody. The fact that you do not have to rely on anybody else to then receive and send money and value. And so if we're going to enable independence by giving people the convenience of modern banking, but with the benefits of Bitcoin, and we believe that the benefit of Bitcoin is self-custody, like, I mean, to still say like there's no second best. There's no other opportunity. There's no other way to build a platform for somebody, for real Bitcoiners. There's no other way to build or use a platform. But again, like we can't, this is kind of the downside that you're talking about, Nico, is we don't get to just do this on our own. We just can't. There is too much ease, there's faster slopes to owning Bitcoin than Bitcoin well. There are easier ways to own Bitcoin than Bitcoin well. And the bet that we're taking is that the community, the people watching this show, the people that watch BTC sessions, the people that understand the importance of the future of Bitcoin and self-custody will not tolerate anything else. And honestly, the bet is to be determined. We've had an incredible amount of love. People from this show, you know, whenever we go to conferences, people are like, love the self-custody. They're very, very bullish on it. But it's a harder platform to use because of the final step. Like when you onboard with Bitcoin Well, when you onboard with anyone else, you get an email and a password, and then boom, you're in, and you connect to your bank. When you onboard with Bitcoin Well, we need a third thing. We need your Bitcoin address. We take your Bitcoin address before we let you verify your identity, before you connect your bank, before we tell you where to send money. We get your Bitcoin address, or you have to give us a Bitcoin address, because we believe in self-custody. And so giving people, so one thing that we have to look at is how do you interact with money, and then how do you apply Bitcoin in self-custody to that? And I think we're nearing over the first hump of the difficulties that a self-custody platform bring. There's probably like 1,000 more humps that we're gonna have to climb through, but we've really found our stride in making it actually easier to use Bitcoin from self-custody than it is from a custodial environment. Because here's the benefit. When Bitcoin is in a custodied environment, sitting at Coinbase or sitting at another, centralized custodial Bitcoin exchange, you don't know that you can't use it until you go to use it. And there's countless stories of people looking to make withdrawals, and we've all even personally been affected by this. And then the platform saying like, no, you can't. And so when you have Bitcoin in your self-custody, literally nobody can say that. And you always have the opportunity to use your Bitcoin. And that's an important thing to me, that everybody always has the opportunity to use their Bitcoin.
100%. And I think a verse is very applicable here. Enter through the narrow gate, for the wide gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it, but small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it.
I didn't know that.
Applicable here, I think, in my opinion. Anyways, I do see.
Well, before we pull it in though, Nico, because Adam, there is some concerns about UTXO management in the chat, but it looks like you guys have some things on the horizon that will eventually fix this. So you want to touch on this one, bro?
Yeah, man. So yeah, I mean, it's live right now, but we're going to be officially starting our market. I mean, hey, this is it. This is the official marketing campaign kicked off, I guess, right now. It was going to be tomorrow morning with the press release, but we'll do it today. Right now in Canada, you can sell Bitcoin on the Lightning Network and receive an e-transfer. Like, look at this. This GIF is like, this is how fast it is. It's literally sending money from this is a custodied wallet, but outside of the Bitcoin Well ecosystem, you send, in this case, I sent 21,000 sats. And boom, within 3 or 4 seconds, I've got an e-transfer, which is like the Canadian bank transfer system. Boom, done. It's right there. It's the fastest way. And then the next step to that, obviously, is being able to. Well, we're going to bring it to the States. We're working on that right now. The guys on the other side of this camera are working on being able to sell Lightning in the USA, and then it will be buy Lightning. And that's, I think, the future of. I was talking with Julian. Kinetic Finance on YouTube, now Get Based on YouTube. And he said stacking on chain is almost becoming like inaccessible. It's almost not worth stacking on chain, because DCA is the right way to buy Bitcoin, obviously, but you have to elongate your DCA when your UTXOs are fewer and fewer and fewer. And so the way that I think we're going to solve that is allow for your DCA or your small purchases to be done through the Lightning Network. And honestly, for the time being, like Lightning is not where it needs to be for mass adoption. Liquid is, federated, but not completely non-custodial. So there's just trade-offs here. However, you can stack Lightning over and over and over. Your 10, your 15. Like we have people that do $4 transactions on Bitcoin. Well, that UTXO is just dead. Like that's like it's not the right way to stack Bitcoin. And so stacking that via the Lightning Network, allowing your $4 UTXOs to, accumulate, and then we're going to offer obviously a swap. And so you'll be able to, in the same way that in that GIF, use like our payment address for selling Bitcoin is going to be your well tag at sell.btcw.app. You can see it very briefly here where I paste it in. But we're going to have another payment address, which is going to be your well tag at swap.btcw.app. And that'll be coming in the next few months. And you'll be able to send Bitcoin on the Lightning Network and receive back, a larger Imagine stacking for 2 or 3 months into a Lightning wallet. You send then that Lightning, those tokens on the Lightning Network to your well tag at swap.btcw.app. Boom, it converts Lightning to main chain back to your passport, and you're good to go. So I think that's the solution to UTXO management in the meantime. Same thing with Liquid, where you have small amounts held, again, off platform. And if they have to go into a custodied environment, fine, but get them off platform. Get them away from the person that sells you. The person that sells you Bitcoin should never, ever, 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 not for 1 single second, be the person that holds your Bitcoin, because the incentives get all messed up. This is the start of how 6102 happens. This is the start of decoupling gold and the dollar. It's when those incentives get a little bit aligned, when you get a little tiny crack in the incentive structure, boom, a wedge gets drawn in and it gets blasted open, and we end up in 2024 where the money is useless and people are broken. And I think that we absolutely need to, like, not even just normalize, but call on people to get their Bitcoin away from the people that sell them that Bitcoin, just to align the incentives so tightly.
Beautiful, beautiful. Adam, do you have a final message to the audience, the 1,847 people watching live right now, plus another 40 on Rumble? What would be your final message, other than going to bitcoinwell.com?
Yeah, I mean, go to bitcoinwell.com, obviously, but I think let's tie the whole thing in, lower your time preference, and stay humble, stack sats. I think definitely we need our community, the Bitcoin Well community, but then the Bitcoin community. We need a strong, united community rooted in a foundational mission. And the mission cannot be, end the world. The mission cannot be separate, get rid of, separate money and state. That's the mission. And let's run it down together, guys.
Absolutely. We're absolutely going to win, but only if you take self-custody. All right, everybody, before we wrap up the show, I do have to give a shout out to our sponsor, of course, KABOOMRACKS. KABOOMRACKS is the most trusted place to buy, sell.
Hey, say it.
KABOOMRACKS. KABOOMRACKS is the most trusted place to buy, sell, and host mining equipment. You can check out their racks by scanning the QR code or checking the link in the video/podcast description. That will take you directly to their Telegram marketplace, where you can connect with a member of their sales team, and they make purchasing their products easy and transparent. You could also sell your mining equipment with them, access their vast network of domestic and international customers when you sell your mining equipment with KABOOMRACKS. If you scan the QR code, it will take you directly to their special sale that's going on right now. They're offering instant hosting for the S19 Pro 120 terahashes. So you can scan the QR code or check the link in the video description if you're interested in instant hosting. Your hash rate goes online after your payment is confirmed. Check out KABOOMRACKS. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Simply Bitcoin, May 27th, 2024. I do want to thank our very, very special guest, Adam O'Brien, CEO and founder of Bitcoin Well, for joining us today. My legendary co-host, Optimus Fields. And tomorrow, guys, we have a very special episode for you guys as well. We have the president of Bitcoin Magazine joining us, Mike Germano. So it's going to be an incredible episode. Guys, if you enjoyed the show, smash the like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. I'm your host, Nico. This is my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields. This is Adam O'Brien. And this is Simply Bitcoin signing out. But first, seems like Sailor has a message for you guys.
Well, because they want to sell it eventually, Michael. I mean, let's be honest. Most of the people who are, yes, sure, some people pass it on to their children, but like most of the people who are buying assets at some point want to sell the assets at a profit. So let me say it a different way. Okay. People that use fiat currency as a store of value, there's a name for them. We call them poor. Okay.
Episode was brought to you by bitcoinwell.com, on a mission to enable independence.